Hello, I'm Amelia. I'm also my stoma on Instagram, and I wanted to talk to you today about my IBD journey and discuss how I ended up with a stoma at age 24. I just wanted to talk about where I was before and where I am now and how it compares. So when I had full-blown colitis, and what I mean by that is before I had surgery, I had a colectomy, so my colon got thrown in the bin, and well, I hope so anyway. And I now have a stoma. I had that when I was 24 years old. I'm now 26 years old, so it's been about a year and a half, I would say. And yeah, so colitis was, it's hard to describe how bad it was, if I'm honest. Like I always say, it started obviously in my bowels, but I had inflammation. My entire colon, which is a hefty big part of your body, it is 5 foot long, was inflamed and bleeding, and had horrible diarrhea, like 20 times a day. I would bleed, you know, it was not pretty. Urgency was bad, really bad, and I was housebound, I would say, for a good few months at a time with these symptoms that were very painful, very agonizing, traumatic. I missed out on a lot, but I think that I'm slowly rebuilding my life from that point, thanks to surgery. And well, the problem was as well is that it didn't just like stay in my digestive system. Like it wasn't just a digestive disease. I had eye inflammation, joint inflammation. I had pleurisy, which is around my lung, this lung. It was all inflamed, and it was, I can say, the most painful experience of my life. It was very nasty. I couldn't breathe without agonizing pain. I had to live on codeine, you know, every few hours for all the time I had that. Unfortunately, the NHS was not the greatest. I found it very hard to access care, and that's my main criticism. Actually, a lot of the care I got once I was there was pretty good, and there was some amazing people in the NHS, but actually getting through the doors into the hospital, that was the hard part. Especially being young, I think it's easy to be dismissed. I remember going to A&E. I don't know why I'm laughing. I remember going to A&E, and there was like an old woman, and she looked so frail and old, and I knew I must have looked very poorly, because this old woman, who was obviously not well herself in A&E, let me go in front of the queue because she thought she's so sick. Like, I was skin and bones at the time as well. It was just not healthy. So eventually, this was 2019 when I was super unwell, and they gave me like rescue therapy, which I'm pretty sure is trying to save you, you know, it's pretty bad stuff. I had infliximab and lots of steroids pumped into me, and eventually, actually, only a few days later, they managed to fix me up, and I went home. And I got a good stretch of remission for about a year, and then sadly, my body decided to fight the drug that worked, and I became allergic to infliximab. So infliximab was the only drug that was working for me, and my body decided, no, you know, what can you do? So I was in the infusions, and I was getting like allergic reactions on my skin. So the doctor came in and said to me, is it helping? And I said like this, I was like, it literally saved my life. Like, please let me stay on this drug. I know it's giving me allergic reactions. Please let me stay on the drug. And he said, yes, you can go on the drug. You can stay on it for now. So I did. They gave me some like allergy stuff, IV, and then some steroids as well to try to control any reaction that I might have. And then I was still pretty scared, if I'm honest, just because I know that allergic reactions are not to be joked about. Thankfully nothing bad did happen, but eventually the dosage was not working for me, and then they was discussing doing double dosing, but then that was more risk for my allergic reactions. They just decided no more infliximab, which is why I've ended up here with surgery, because infliximab was the only thing that worked for me. So it just so happens that my life is a series of unfortunate events. I tried azathioprine, I don't know if I'm saying that right, and adalimumab, also known as Amgevita, and I tried a very new drug, tofacitinib, I think I'm saying that right, with mixed reviews for those drugs, really. No, like, it didn't have any really bad side effects, but they didn't control my colitis, or at least not enough. I was never as sick as when I was first diagnosed, and it was uncontrolled, completely uncontrolled, but it was not enough to control my symptoms to give me my life back. Like, I couldn't live with the symptoms I had, and it wasn't probably very safe. And then one day, I called up my IBD nurse and I said, I am 24 years old. I was trying to remember how old I was. I've been ill for all of my 20s. Like, I've not had a good stretch. I've had like a year maximum in remission, and that's it. Like, the rest of the time, very, very ill. I really don't want this to carry on for the rest of my 20s. Like, if you decide to do my surgery when I'm 30, I've spent my whole 20s completely unwell, to be honest. Like, I might have a few weeks where I'm good, but then it comes back, I'm ill again, my life's on hold again, I can't work, I can't have like friends, family, like, what am I supposed to do? This is what I was saying to her. It was a difficult but pivotal moment in my life. I think that it was the right decision, but anyway, so she obviously said that was an option for me. As it's colitis, they give you this option. If you want to have a colectomy, it is kind of on you. I'm sure that like they would have to be sure that your disease is serious enough to need it, which I would say mine definitely was that. And then I met with my surgeon, who I have nothing but good stuff to say about. I love the surgeon. He's a really good guy, and he listened to me, and I just felt like he really felt this surgery could help me, and none of the other staff seemed to think that, or like at least they didn't think that was the right treatment. But when you've tried like drug after drug after drug, and you're like, I'm not getting anywhere, you just want whatever the next step is. That's how I felt at the time. So for my surgery, I actually had it while there were still COVID restrictions in place. Not so much actually in the UK, just in hospitals, I would say. So I had to be left at the door by my partner, which was not the nicest of things to go through. You know, you think you're having surgery is bad enough, but having surgery on your own, and I'm not the greatest in hospitals anyway, they give me the heebie-jeebies. I'm a very squeamish person, so I just don't like being there. They're very lonely places anyway. It was hard. So yeah, he left me at the door, and then I went to the room. It was just like an isolated room because they were trying to cordon off like the ward from the newcomers. I think that's a COVID thing as well. And they had to give me like an enema, which I'd never had before, and that was awful and painful because of my colitis. But actually it was quite reassuring that I was doing the right thing, because that moment was very, very painful. And I thought, well, once I've had this done to me, this feeling I'm having in my stomach, this pain, will hopefully not be there anymore. So it made me feel quite reassured that I was doing the right thing. The next morning, I think it was like the pain management person came to see me. He told me I'm going to have an epidural, which for me, being squeamish, was not the nicest of things to learn on the morning. Sorry. And I went down to surgery, like the first one, I think, so it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's when the tears started to fall. I was crying quite a bit before my surgery, just in the corridor on my own. And the porter, I think they're called, the one that wheels you around the hospital, he was trying to comfort me. It was really random because he was just talking about cheese to me. It was so random, and I was just like, yes, Cornish cheese, yes. But I was crying my eyes out. And then I went into the room and they were like, oh, do you want to walk in? So I walked into the surgery room, which basically looks like a science lab. It's a big slab table, and they were like, oh, just lay there. So I went, laid on the table where they're gonna cut me open. I was like, this is interesting, guys. Interesting thing to think about. And I mean, I felt hopeful, but mostly just very terrified in the moment. I was crying. I didn't want the epidural. I had to do it. I knew that I had to do it. I was like, I can do this. I can get through this. And I was like, please just like be quick. And I was crying a bit already. And they put the needle in, and I could tell what they were doing because I could just feel the pressure and the pain. Put it in, did it, squared stuff in it or whatever they do, and I was like, they've not done it right. They've messed it up, basically. Do it again. And again, they didn't do it right. I don't know what was wrong with my back. Maybe I've got a dodgy back. I don't know. They decided, third time lucky. At this point, I was a mess. Like, I was hunched over like this because they make you hunch over. I was just crying and crying and just like, well, am I doing the right thing? Do I just want to like run? And gosh knows, but I knew that if I did that, I would regret it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to have to wait again for surgery, weeks and weeks of waiting, prepping mentally. No, I'm not doing that. So I was like, oh, I need inner strength right now. And just so happened that one of the, I'm not sure what her job was, surgical assistant maybe, or maybe just surgeon, I don't know. She actually said, don't worry, I had a stoma when I was a baby. You'll be just fine. And that was when I thought, wow, like, she's had one and she's now doing surgery for people. That is incredible, so inspiring. Wow, I can do this, okay. And then they did my epidural right, so I was like, yes. And then the easy part, knock you out. That's the easy bit. You're just asleep. So that's kind of like leading up to the surgery. That's how it went. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't the worst thing I've been through, but then I've not been through a normal set of like things happening to me. Yeah, it was not the worst thing in the world, but it's not something I wish to run back to do again anytime soon. And when I woke up from surgery, I remember thinking, like, immediately just being like, is it okay? Like, did it go okay? Like, you just don't know. I knew something had been done and I knew I was in the hospital. I'm so used to waking up and seeing like nurses like standing over me. So the first thing I think I asked was like, did it go okay? And she said, I think she said either yes or I think so, or they'll tell you later, which they definitely didn't tell me later. So anyway, it was all fine. But I remember being in a lot of pain and saying, I need pain relief. She said, you've already had everything. Story of my life as well. Then I've been to recovery area, like the ward, which is like I don't know, the thing you go to after surgery, which is just like the high dependency kind of thing. I don't remember that much of it. I remember having a catheter. That was the first time I'd had a catheter. I remember being very scared of having one, but it wasn't so bad at all. It felt a bit weird, but that was about it. And I remember lots of beeping machines. And I remember the first time I like looked at my stomach after surgery was, I think, the same day, possibly the second. No, it's probably the day after, actually. It's hard to remember these things. I remember this lovely nurse came to help me, and she was like washing me, and she said, do you want to do it? And I said yes, because basically, like, I've always had this thing where unless I really have to say no, I'm going to say yes, because I want to recover quicker. I want to be able to look after myself, because then you can like move on to the next part of your recovery. So I said yes, I'll do it. Didn't want to look at my stomach, but I did. It was not as bad as I was expecting, because at that point, like, I didn't know even, was it done laparoscopically, I think it's called, or was it like open surgery where they cut it literally all the way down. Luckily it was like laparoscopically, so I had like little tiny cuts. It looked a lot worse at the time because it was fresh, and I had like I think it's disinfectant, and it's just like this bright orange colour, and it was all over me, and I remember thinking, oh, they've just left blood all over me. It wasn't, it was just disinfectant. I guess I just wanted to talk to you about the first time I dealt with my stoma, which was probably like 2 days after my surgery. How do I describe it? It's very different to what I like. I've seen pictures of stomas. I kind of knew what to expect, but when it's your own body, it's a bit different. I didn't feel like negative. I just kind of felt like I didn't want to see the gore. It's obviously been stitched, so it's not the prettiest of things when it's first done, especially. It was bleeding, but somehow I had sort of an idea of how to change it, because I'd looked up online how to do these things beforehand, and they'd dropped off like stoma kit without really talking to me or anything, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna go and do it. So I actually took this stoma kit off my own bat, like, this is what I decided to do, to the bathroom in the hospital. And I'd only just had surgery, but I was so sure, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to own it. I knew that that was the only way I was going to get home, because they don't let you home until you can look after yourself, which includes caring for your stoma. So I just thought, what the heck, I'm going to give it a go. So I went to the bathroom, got my little bag, got the bin bag thing, wiped my stoma, stuck my new one on, and went back to the room, the ward. My stoma nurse comes along and she goes, oh, so we want you to change it so that we can see that you can do it. And I was like, I've just changed it. And she went, what? I went, I've just changed it. And she was like, what? Why did you go and do that? Like, I just said, I really wanted to just give it a go. I was very eager. And then she said, well, can you do it again to show me that you can do it? So I did it again. She went, perfect. So that was the all clear. You can go home from here. I mean, it wasn't easy to like care for it. Like, it wasn't easy to see it and to like deal with that. But equally, I knew that I had to do it. This was my life now. There was no point, you know, crying about it at this point. It's already been done. So I just thought, just get on with it, you know. And that's all. It wasn't too bad. It was a bit gory, not the nicest of things. There were sometimes when I would cry in frustration afterwards. Like when I got home, I mean, I would just like be like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then I just could do it. I just thought I couldn't. And one of the things that really helped me was putting music on. I put some upbeat music on while I was doing it, and then I would feel better about myself. Thank you for watching my video. I'm sorry for rambling. I'm a real yakka. I really want to share my journey, not for my own benefit really, although it is nice to get it out there, like share, and mostly because I know how valuable it is if you're someone going through this, or if you know someone going through this. I know that it's so important to have that representation and to know that you're not alone, and you're definitely not alone. Actually, I think it's 1 in around 300 people have a stoma, so you're not alone. And if you find someone who's been through it and talk to them, you'll realise things are a lot easier. Together you're stronger. That's what I think. And that's why I'm sharing this. And that's why I'll continue to share and talk and discuss and advocate for people with IBD, with stomas, with disabilities, and just in general for your health, because your health is the most important thing that you have. It really is. Thank you. Goodbye.